You become what you think. The secret to transforming your life. There is a silent architect shaping your entire existence. It does not live in your hands or in your feet. It does not come from your history or your income. It is not dictated by where you were born or who you know. It lives behind your eyes in the quiet of your mind, the place where thought becomes direction, where belief becomes blueprint. Every single thing you have created, tolerated, loved, or lost began not in your actions, but in your thoughts. You are not what has happened to you. You are what you have agreed to think about what has happened. No one told us how powerful we truly are. They told us to behave, to follow the rules, to stay in line, to hope, to pray, to wait for something to change. But no one sat us down and said, you become what you think, that the world you see is not just a reflection of your conditions, it is a mirror of your consciousness. That your life is not shaped by luck, or fate, or circumstance. It is shaped by the silent stories you keep repeating in your mind, whether they serve you or sabotage you. I know this because I lived on the other side. I lived in the cage of negative thoughts, calling it realist. I woke up already tired, already defeated, already convinced that life would be another cycle of waiting and wishing. I spoke with limitations. I reacted from fear. I expected very little from myself, and even less from the world. And the world met me there. Not because it hated me, but because it mirrored me. I was not cursed. I was conditioned. And that conditioning had become my compass. But something cracked one day. Not through inspiration. Through desperation. I had hit a wall emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And in that stillness, I heard something I had never paid attention to before. My own voice. The way I spoke to myself. The way I imagined failure before I ever attempted. The way I made meaning out of every silence, every delay, every mistake. I had become a prisoner not of people, not of problems, but of my own thinking. And that realization woke something ancient inside me. It was then I understood if I could think myself into this, I could think myself out. If I could imagine all that could go wrong, I could also imagine all that could go right. If I could live my life reacting to fear, I could also live it responding to faith. And so began the rebuild. Not of my schedule. Not of my appearance. But of my mind. The factory of all outcomes. The root of all transformation. This book is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is not about toxic positivity or blind optimism. It is about truth. And the truth is, you are not your thoughts, but your thoughts create your life. Every belief is a seed. Every repeated thought is water. And what you nurture, you experience. Not immediately, but inevitably. Your outer world may be loud, but your inner world is law. And when the two do not match, it is only a matter of time before your thoughts bend reality for better or worse. You do not change your life by changing your job. You change it by changing the way you think about work. You do not change your life by leaving a relationship. You change it by refusing to think you are unworthy of love. You do not change your life by moving to another city. You change it when you stop carrying the same thoughts that kept you stuck in the last one. The problem is not what happens. The problem is what you think it means. The problem is not that you failed. It is that you started calling yourself a failure. The problem is not that you were rejected. It is that you started believing you are not enough. And once a thought like that takes root, it becomes your identity. your expectations, your energy, your reality. But here is the liberation: if your thoughts got you here, they can take you somewhere else. Somewhere better. Somewhere truer. Somewhere you actually want to be. You do not need to change everything today. You just need to stop agreeing with the thoughts that are tearing you down. You just need to notice the story you are telling and ask, is this creating the life I want? If not, rewrite it. Not someday. Now. Every person who has transformed their life, whether through healing, success, love, or peace, began with one shift. They changed what they believed about themselves. They did not wait for the world to tell them they could. They told themselves. Again and again, until the world began to mirror it. You have that power too. It does not matter how long you have lived in fear. It does not matter who doubted you. It does not matter what you have done or not done. What matters is that you understand this one truth: your thoughts are not passive. They are creative. They are electric. They are magnetic. And when you direct them with intention, your life bends. So, this is the beginning. Not of doing more, but of thinking better. Thinking clearer. Thinking in alignment with the life you are ready to create. The secret to transforming your life is not hidden. It is not locked away. It is not waiting on someone else's approval. It is already inside you, waiting for your permission to think differently. Chapter 1. Thoughts are seeds, not suggestions. Most people think thoughts are harmless, fleeting, random, that they come and go without consequence. But nothing could be further from the truth. Your thoughts are not suggestions, they are seeds. And every seed you allow to take root begins to grow roots, branches, and fruit in your life. Whether that fruit is bitter or beautiful depends entirely on the garden you tend inside your mind. This is not metaphor. This is law. The law that governs every outcome you see, every pattern you repeat, every limit you unconsciously accept. Thoughts are not just private opinions. They are the architects of reality. They are instructions to your nervous system, your energy, your behavior. If you think a thought long enough, you begin to believe it. And what you believe becomes what you expect. And what you expect becomes what you allow, what you tolerate, what you attract. No action happens without a thought first approving it. No limitation stays in place unless a thought is guarding it. You do not just think about your life. You build it thought by thought, belief by belief, day by day. Let me show you how this works. If you wake up and the first thought in your mind is, "This is going to be another hard day," your body listens. Your breath shortens. Your shoulders tense. You become more reactive, more defensive, more fatigued before the day even begins. Not because the world attacked you, but because your thoughts set the tone. And you will begin to find evidence that proves it right. You spill your coffee. You get stuck in traffic. Someone says something small and it feels like an insult. You say, "See, I knew it, but did you know it? Or did you expect it?" Now imagine waking up and thinking, "Today I choose peace, no matter what happens." That one thought becomes a filter. New lens. And even when life challenges you, the email, the noise, the delay, you respond differently. Not because the day is perfect, but because your mindset is aligned. You are not reacting from panic. You are responding from presence. That presence becomes your power. Not because you forced life to change, but because you chose a new thought that changed you. This is not magic. It is not about pretending. It is not about ignoring pain or living in denial. It is about alignment. Alignment with the truth that your mind is the master key, and the thoughts you allow to dominate your focus will dominate your future. Every fear, every goal, every vision, they all begin with thought. Thought is the original cause. Everything else is effect. So the question is, what kind of thoughts are you allowing to stay? Not the thoughts that pass through, the ones that take root. The ones you feed with repetition. The ones you agree with in silence. The ones you say to yourself when you are tired, disappointed, or alone. Because those are the thoughts shaping your identity. And identity is the root of every action you take. If your inner narrative is filled with limitation, I am not smart enough, I am always behind, nothing works out for me, then no amount of external change will be sustainable. Because your internal thermostat will pull you back. You may experience brief success. A good day. A kind word. But if the root thought is unworth and ends, you will find a way to sabotage it. Not because you are broken, but because your subconscious is trying to protect the old identity. That is why real transformation begins with awareness. You cannot change what you do not notice. So begin noticing. Not with judgment. With curiosity. Pay attention to your inner dialogue. Ask yourself, if this thought created my day, my relationships, my decisions, do I want it to? Replace it. Not with blind positivity, but with truth that empowers. With statements that root you in who you are becoming, not who you were trained to be. This takes time. You have lived under the weight of old thoughts for years. Maybe decades. But that weight can be lifted one new thought at a time. And every time you replace fear with faith, doubt with clarity, criticism with compassion, you are not just changing your mood. You are changing your mind. And a changed mind will always lead to a changed life. So stop treating your thoughts like background noise. They are the most important conversations you will ever have. Make them sacred. Make them strong. Make them aligned. Because what you think about all day is what you become. And what you become is what you bring into the world. Just for yourself, but for everyone connected to your energy, your choices, your presence. You are not just thinking privately. You are broadcasting. Your energy introduces you before your words ever arrive. And that energy is forged in your thoughts. So, if you want to shift your presence, start by shifting your perception. If you want to walk into a room and change the atmosphere, you must first change the internal weather of your mind. Because no amount of strategy will fix what your mindset continues to sabotage. This is why so many people feel stuck. Not because life has not offered opportunities, but because their thoughts filtered them out. I could never do that. People like me do not succeed. I am not ready. These are not observations. These are commands. And your mind, brilliant and obedient, fulfills them. It proves them true not because they are truth, but because they are dominant. But what happens when you reverse them? When you begin to say, I am capable, I am learning, I am allowed to grow, suddenly, the mind starts looking for evidence to support that too. You are not lying to yourself. You are leading yourself. You are not faking it. You are planting it. Planting new thoughts that match the life you are now choosing. And like any garden, it takes time. It takes weeding out the lies. It takes protecting the seedlings from the storms of self-doubt. It takes nurturing the soil with consistency attention, repetition. But if you stay with it, if you keep planting, your entire life begins to bloom from within. So ask yourself right now, what is the most repeated thought in my mind? Is it rooted in fear or freedom? Does it shrink me or strengthen me? Does it reflect who I have been or who I am becoming? And if it no longer serves your vision, release it. Replace it. Rewire it. Because the next level of your life will not come from wishing. It will come from thinking like someone who's already there. This is your power. This is your responsibility. Not to control every thought that appears, but to choose which ones get to stay. Not every seed is worthy of your soil. Protect it. Water it. Align it. Because the thoughts you tend today become the life you live tomorrow. Chapter 2. Belief is the bridge between thought and reality. Thoughts create sparks, but belief builds bridges. You can think a powerful thought once and feel inspired. But unless that thought is repeated, reinforced, and believed, it disappears like smoke in the wind. It never becomes flesh. It never grows legs. It never reaches the shore of reality. This is where most people get stuck. They have good thoughts, even bold dreams, but they do not cross the bridge. They do not believe deeply enough to act, to persist, to become. You must understand this: your life does not rise to your moments of inspiration. It rises to the level of your beliefs. Belief is the soil that turns thoughts into things. It is the inner agreement that says, yes, this is possible for me. Yes, I can become this. Yes, I will continue even when it is uncomfortable. Without that agreement, even the strongest thoughts will fade. But when a thought becomes a belief, deeply rooted, emotionally charged, and consistently reinforced, it becomes unstoppable. Not because the world cooperates, but because you no longer require the world's permission to begin. The problem is, most people do not realize what they believe. They think beliefs are conscious choices, but most of them are unconscious inheritances. You did not choose to believe you are not good enough. Someone said it enough times that you started agreeing. You did not decide that success is for others. You simply never saw someone like you walk through that door, and your mind assumed it was closed. Beliefs are not always logical. They are emotional. And until you challenge them, you live by them whether they serve you or not. That is why awareness is everything. Not judgment. Awareness. You must begin to trace your life back to your beliefs. Not your behavior, your beliefs. Because behavior is the symptom. Belief is the root. If you consistently procrastinate, it is not because you are lazy, it is because some part of you believes your effort will not make a difference. If you settle for relationships that drain you, it is not because you enjoy pain, it is because some part of you believes that is what you deserve. Change the belief, and the behavior changes automatically. So, how do you change a belief? First, you bring it to the surface. You write it down. You say it out loud. You look at it directly and ask, is this belief mine? Or was it given to me by someone else's fear? Has this belief brought me closer to who I want to be, or has it kept me in cycles of self-doubt? Because the answers will show you exactly what needs to be released. Then you replace it. Not with a lie. With a higher truth. You do not go from I am broken to I am perfect. That is not belief, that is denial. You go from I am broken to I am healing. And I am worthy of healing. You go from I am a failure to I have failed, but I am not finished. You go from no one sees me to I am learning to see myself. And that is the only vision that matters right now. These thoughts, if repeated with intention and emotion, become belief. And belief becomes behavior. And behavior becomes your new life. Rebuilding your mind is not about hype. It is about honesty. It is about courage. It is about looking at the beliefs that have shaped your self-minus image and asking, do these align with the future I say I want? If they do not, let them go. Not with rage. With reverence. Because those beliefs once protected you. They helped you make sense of pain. But they are not required anymore. You are not who you used to be. And your mind must reflect that. I remember the day I stopped believing I was too late. I had carried that lie like luggage, watching others succeed, telling myself I missed my window, shrinking every time I saw someone younger living a life I had only dreamed of. And one day, the thought came, what if I am not late? What if I am right on time for the version of me that is actually ready? Not because the world changed, but because I finally stopped arguing for my own limitations. So now I ask you, what would your life look like if you truly believed you were ready? If you truly believed you were worthy? If you truly believed that your thoughts mattered, your story mattered, your vision mattered? What would you stop settling for? What would you start saying no to? What would you finally give yourself permission to become? Because belief is not just a feeling. It is fuel. It moves your feet. It changes your posture. It alters your decisions. It tells the world I am not just thinking anymore. I am choosing. I am committing. I am becoming. And when you believe at that level, you do not chase transformation. You attract it. Because life always responds to belief, not the belief you say, but the belief you live. Chapter 3. Your mind is a magnet, not a mirror. Most people walk through life reacting. They believe they are responding to reality, when in truth, they are reinforcing it. They look at their life, the lack, the pain, the disappointment, and they say, see, this is just how things are. But what they do not realize is that their mind is not just observing life. It is attracting it. Not like a camera that takes a picture. More like a magnet that pulls energy, people, and experiences that match its deepest frequency. Your mind is not a mirror. It is a magnet. And what you focus on, you do not just see, you summon. It is a law as real as gravity, the law of correspondence. Your outer world reflects your inner world, not because the world is fair, but because the world is responsive. You do not get what you want. You get what you are. Not who you pretend to be. Not who you wish to become. Who you are in thought, in emotion, in energetic posture. That is what the universe listens to. That is what determines your experience. And until you change what is happening inside, nothing outside will ever truly change. This is not mysticism. This is mental discipline. You cannot expect to attract abundance while constantly thinking from lack. You cannot expect to receive love while constantly assuming rejection. You cannot expect peace while choosing thoughts of panic, conflict, and fear. Your mental atmosphere determines your emotional weather. And your emotional weather determines the conditions of your life. Think of it like this: if your mind is tuned to scarcity, you will miss every opportunity that does not match it. Even if it is right in front of you. You will explain it away. You will sabotage it. You will say that could never be for me, and your subconscious, loyal to your dominant belief, will make it true. Not because it has to, Because you told it to. Because your mind, powerful, obedient, sacred, can only magnetize what it has been instructed to expect. But the opposite is also true. If you begin tuning your thoughts to faith, to possibility, to alignment, your life begins to change. Not immediately, but inevitably. Your energy shifts. Your decisions improve. Your self-minus talk becomes cleaner, more powerful, more precise. You stop entertaining what you used to tolerate. You stop lowering your standards for connection. You start moving like someone who believes they belong in the room, not because of ego, but because of energy. This is the secret most people miss. You do not need to fight your old life. You just need to stop feeding it. Stop feeding the old thoughts, the old fears, the old identity. Starve the pattern. Starve the doubt. Starve the shame. And begin feeding the future. With thoughts that nourish. With words that affirm. With visions that reflect where you are going, not where you have been. Do not say, "You'll believe it when I see it." Say, "You'll see it when I believe it." That is the shift. That is the turn. That is how your magnet begins to pull something new. Not because the world changed, but because your signal did. You stopped broadcasting lack. You stopped vibrating fear. You started walking in expectation. You started speaking in alignment. You started living like your vision was not a hope, it was a prophecy. You must understand, this is not delusion. This is design. You are not given imagination for fantasy. You are given imagination for formation. The picture in your mind is not a dream. It is a preview. A glimpse of what becomes possible when your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions, and your actions begin to align. And when they do, life responds. People shift. Doors open. Solutions appear. Not by accident. By resonance. You do not chase what you attract. You do not beg for what you embody. You simply hold the vibration of the version of you that already has it. And you let that version lead. Not with force. With focus. With trust. With the unwavering decision to think in alignment with the life you are building, no matter how things look right now. So ask yourself, what is my mind tuned to? Scarcity or sufficiency? Drama or direction? Survival or creation? Then be honest. Because the signal you send is the experience you live. You are not stuck. You are just tuned into a story that no longer serves you. Change the station. Tune your thoughts to your future. Speak in the language of your next level. Walk with the posture of someone who no longer mirrors the world but magnetizes it. Because when your mind becomes a magnet for truth, your life will reflect it in ways you never imagined. Chapter 4. Speak what you want to see. Words are not decoration. They are direction. Every sentence you speak is either a spell or a seed. It either anchors you to the present limitation or plants you in the future you are building. Most people never realize this. They speak from memory instead of from vision. They describe what they see, what they fear, what they regret, and then wonder why nothing changes. But you were never meant to simply describe your life. You were meant to declare it, to shape it, to speak it into alignment with what you believe, not just what you observe. Your tongue is a tool, and it is either building or breaking. Look at your life. Look at your relationships. Look at your emotional state. Trace it back to your language. Are you always saying, I am tired, I am overwhelmed, I am not enough, things never work out for me? These are not harmless words. They are invitations. And every time you speak them, your mind listens. Your body reacts. Your future conforms. Because your words are not passive, they are prophetic. You cannot speak defeat and expect victory. You cannot repeat lack and manifest abundance. You cannot curse your day with complaints and expect it to yield clarity. The mouth follows the mind, but it also feeds it. The more you say something, the more your brain believes it is true. That belief becomes behavior. That behavior becomes results. And the results reinforce the original words. It is a cycle, and the only way to change the cycle is to change the script. You must begin to speak not from where you are, but from where you are going. Not with arrogance. With authority. With alignment. This does not mean you deny reality. It means you declare your intention in the face of it. It means you say, I am healing, even while the pain is still fresh. It means you say, I am learning, even while the lesson is hard. It means you say, I am becoming, even when the world has not yet seen your transformation. Because you are not speaking to impress, you are speaking to build. There is power in your declarations. Not because they change everything overnight, but because they shift your posture, your pace, your priorities. When you start saying, I am worthy of peace, you stop tolerating chaos. When you start saying, I am focused, you stop entertaining distractions. When you start saying, I am no longer available for things that drain me, your boundaries begin to harden. Not because you forced anything, but because your words realigned your reality. I remember when I first started changing my language. It felt awkward at first. Like I was pretending. Saying things like, I am disciplined, while still breaking promises to myself. Saying, I am enough, while still feeling like I had something to prove. But I kept speaking. I kept affirming. I kept choosing the new script over the old one until one day, the words were no longer a stretch. They were my new standard. My new identity. My new reflection. That is what you must do. Speak the future until it becomes familiar. Say the truth until it becomes louder than the fear. Not once. Not when it is easy. Every day. Especially when your current circumstances do not yet match your declarations. Because the moment you begin speaking from vision instead of memory, the universe responds. Opportunities arise. Energy shifts. People start treating you differently not because they changed, but because you did. Speak life over your goals. Speak peace over your past. Speak clarity over your confusion. Speak love into your future. Speak discipline into your decisions. Speak power into your pauses. Speak commitment into your chaos. Because your life is listening. Your spirit is listening. Your future is listening. And it is shaped not just by what you do, but by what you say when no one is watching. Let your words be intentional. Let your language reflect your leadership. Let your declarations become your discipline. And when you forget, start again. Do not wait until you feel it. Speak until you become it. You are not just thinking your life into existence. You are speaking it. Make every word a brick. Make every sentence a step. Make every declaration a decision. Because what you say, you will eventually see. Chapter 5. The inner conversation that shapes your destiny. There is a conversation happening every day that no one hears but you. It runs beneath the surface of your actions, beneath the surface of your smile. It is quiet, constant, and incredibly powerful. It shapes the tone of your choices, the strength of your posture, and the rhythm of your decisions. It is the inner conversation, the dialogue between your thoughts and your beliefs, your fear and your faith, your past and your future. And that conversation, more than any advice or motivation, is what will determine who you become. Most people do not realize how cruel they are to themselves. Not in what they do and what they say. They call themselves lazy, unworthy, too late, too much, not enough. They repeat the criticism of voices long gone. They carry shame like it is discipline, and they call it being realistic. But what they are really doing is creating a cage. A mental prison where their potential is locked behind bars of negative self-talk. And no amount of strategy can free someone who continues to sentence themselves with their own words. If you want to transform your life, you must begin by transforming the way you speak to yourself when you are alone. When no one else is listening. When you are looking in the mirror or lying in the dark. That is where the shift must begin, not with performance, but with permission. Permission to stop bullying yourself. Permission to stop calling shame motivation. Permission to speak to yourself with the same compassion you offer others. This is not weakness. It is wisdom. Because the way you speak to yourself becomes the way you experience life. If your inner voice is hostile, you will see enemies in every opportunity. If your inner voice is scared, you will see risk in every invitation. If your inner voice is hopeless, even your dreams will feel like burdens. But when your inner voice becomes a place of safety, of strength, of truth, of vision, your entire life begins to change. Because now you are not fighting against yourself. You are walking with yourself. Start listening. Really listening. Notice what your mind says when you fail, when you make a mistake, when you are rejected. Is it, of course this always happens to me? Or is it, this is a setback, not a sentence? I am learning. I am still becoming. That voice matters. Because that voice decides what happens next. That voice determines whether you try again or shut down. Whether you grow or retreat. Whether you sabotage or succeed. You do not need to silence every negative thought, you need to stop agreeing with them. Let them pass. Let them rise and fall like clouds in the sky. But do not build a home for them. Do not let them settle. Do not give them your name. Because once you identify with a thought, it becomes your truth, even if it is a lie. Instead, begin building a new inner dialogue. One rooted in truth. One that says, I am not my mistakes. I am my response. One that says, I am not my past. I am my potential. One that says, I am not stuck. I am strategic. I am strong. I am still here. These are not just affirmations. They are anchors. They hold you steady when the storms come. They remind you of who you are when everything else tries to make you forget. You do not need to be perfect. You need to be present. Present enough to notice when the old voice comes back. Present enough to choose a new one. Present enough to pause and ask, is this thought helping me grow or keeping me small? And if it is keeping you small, rewrite it. Speak back. Say, that is the old story. I'm writing a new one. I know it takes time. I know you will slip. I know the old voice is loud, it has had years to grow. But your new voice is stronger because it is true. And truth, when repeated, becomes belief. And belief, when lived, becomes destiny. So make your inner world your sanctuary. Make your mind a place of vision, not judgment. Make your self-minus talk your most powerful tool, not your greatest enemy. Because in the end, the world will not decide who you become. The world will only respond to who you believe you are. And who you believe you are is shaped by the conversation no one hears but you. Chapter 6. Repetition is the architect of identity. We are not shaped by what we do occasionally. We are shaped by what we do repeatedly. That is the real secret. Repetition. Not intensity. Not emotion. Not motivation. What you repeat in thought, in word, in behavior becomes who you are. It becomes the structure of your identity. And once your identity shifts, everything else begins to follow. You can think a powerful thought once and feel a spark. You can speak a bold declaration once and feel a surge. But without repetition, that spark never becomes fire. Without repetition, that surge never becomes structure. Because your subconscious mind, the part of you that doctors 95% of your behavior, does not respond to what you think once. It responds to what it hears over and over and over again. This is why your self-minus image is so powerful. Not because it is accurate, but because it is consistent. If you constantly say to yourself, "I always mess this up," your brain does not question it. It simply accepts it as fact and begins to act accordingly. If you constantly say, "I am not disciplined," your mind stops looking for evidence that you are. It starts reinforcing your lack of discipline. And so the cycle continues. Not because it is true, but because it is repeated. But here is the breakthrough: you can use this same mechanism to transform yourself. You can choose your repetition. You can train your brain to believe something new, something aligned, something that serves the life you want to build. Not by force, by frequency. You say it again. You write it again. You act on it again. And slowly your mind begins to shift. Not from outside pressure, but from internal alignment. Repetition rewires your brain. It creates new neural pathways. It strengthens connections that were once weak. It makes the unfamiliar feel natural. And that is when change becomes permanent, when the new behavior no longer feels like effort. When the new thought no longer feels like a stretch. When the new identity no longer feels like an act, it feels like home. This is why consistency beats talent. This is why daily practice beats random performance. This is why someone who shows up every day, even with small steps, will always outgrow the one who waits for the perfect moment. Because the one who repeats becomes. The one who repeats rewrites. The one who repeats rebuilds. So ask yourself, what am I rehearsing in my mind every day? What thoughts have I made permanent by repetition? What beliefs am I strengthening by speaking them over and over again? Are they leading me toward expansion, or are they anchoring me to my past? And if they are anchoring you, let them go. Interrupt the pattern. Replace it with a new one. Not just once. Over and over. Even when it feels silly. Even when it feels slow. Because your mind learns through volume, not volume of emotion, but volume of exposure. It believes what it hears the most. That is why declarations matter. That is why habits matter. That is why rituals matter. Not because they are magical, but because they are mechanical. They program your subconscious with a new set of instructions. And those instructions become your compass. They determine how you respond to challenge, how you recover from failure, how you interpret silence, how you pursue what matters. Repetition is not sexy. It is not dramatic. But it is holy. It is how mountains are moved. It is how transformation becomes normal. It is how new patterns become permanent. And it is available to you right now. Not someday. Not when you feel ready. Now. Choose what you will repeat. Choose the thought. Choose the sentence. Choose the action. Then do it again. And again. And again. Until it becomes who you are. Until your mind no longer doubts it. Until your nervous system no longer resists it. Until your life begins to mirror it, not because you forced it, but because you lived it. You do not become what you try. You become what you repeat. Chapter 7. Your self-image is the ceiling of your success. You can only rise as high as you believe you belong. That is the quiet truth behind every breakthrough and every breakdown. Behind every risk you took and every opportunity you avoided. Behind every dream you started and every goal you abandoned. The real issue was never the world around you, it was the picture you held of yourself within. Your self-image is the ceiling of your success. And until that image changes, your results will always reflect the past, not your potential. You do not get what you deserve. You get what you believe. Not with your lips, but with your life. Not with your goals, but with your habits. Because your identity, the way you see yourself, will always win. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will sabotage every win. If you see yourself as second minus best, you will never take the lead. If you see yourself as stuck, every new opportunity will feel like a threat, not a blessing. You cannot outperform your self-image. You might do it for a moment. You might impress for a while. But eventually, you will return to the level where your beliefs live. That is why so many people experience the same cycles: breakthrough, burnout, breakdown, and back again. Not because they are weak, but because their self-image did not rise with their actions. They chased results without first becoming someone who could sustain them. To truly transform, you must upgrade the way you see yourself. You must rewrite the mental script. You must stop identifying with old wounds, old roles, and old stories that were never meant to be permanent. You are not your trauma. You are not your failure. You are not your family history. You are not your bank account or your body image or your last bad day. You are the one who chooses how to interpret all of it. And that interpretation becomes your identity. Ask yourself, honestly, how do I really see myself? Not who I post to be. Not who I pretend to be. Who do I believe I am when no one is watching? Am I someone who finishes what I start? Am I someone who handles wealth well? Am I someone who deserves real love? Or am I someone who always struggles, always loses, always just misses the mark? Do not judge your answers. Observe them. Because those answers are running your life. And if you want different outcomes, you need a different image. You need to stop dragging the past into your present. You need to let go of the old labels, the ones others put on you and the ones you kept putting on yourself. You are not just a survivor, you are a builder. You are a leader. You are a visionary. You are not broken. You are becoming. And becoming is messy. It means shedding the parts of you that once felt safe. It means stepping into rooms where you feel like an imposter until your nervous system adjusts to the new standard. It means letting your actions stretch your identity until you start to believe, maybe I do belong here. Maybe I do have something to offer. Maybe I am not who I used to be. That maybe is the beginning of every transformation. So here is your invitation: choose a new self-image. Not based on who you have been. Based on who you are ready to be. Speak it. Write it. Imagine it. Feel it. Practice being it before you see the results. Because the results do not create the identity. The identity creates the results. Walk like the version of you who already has clarity. Speak like the version of you who already walks in peace. Decide like the version of you who no longer needs to prove anything. Love like the version of you who knows they are worthy. And when the old thoughts come and they will, do not fight them. Do not fear them. Just say, that is not who I am anymore. Your self-image is not fixed. It is fluid. It is formed in repetition, in imagination, in action. You can rebuild it. You can choose it. You can expand it. And when you do, the ceiling lifts. The room changes. The doors open. Not because the world finally saw your worth, but because you finally did. Chapter 8. The environment of the mind. You cannot grow roses in a toxic garden. You cannot plant seeds of vision in soil poisoned by doubt, distraction, and negativity and expect them to flourish. No matter how inspired you feel, if the environment around your thoughts is polluted, the harvest will be poor. This is the reality too few people acknowledge. Your mind needs an environment to thrive in. And that environment is not neutral. It is either nourishing or depleting. It either strengthens your focus or scatters it. It either amplifies your identity or suffocates it. Your environment is not just your home. It is your input. It is the people you listen to, the media you consume, the conversations you entertain, the thoughts you allow, the rhythm of your space and the standard of your energy. You cannot keep reading empowering truths while spending your days surrounded by voices that contradict them. You cannot meditate on your future while rehearsing your past. You cannot affirm your worth in the morning and then tolerate disrespect all afternoon. Your environment must match your intention, or your intention will fade. This is where most people lose momentum, not because they are lazy or weak, but because they are planted in places that drain them. Trying to grow beside gossip. Trying to rise in a space where no one else believes in better. Trying to shift their self-image while surrounded by people addicted to who they used to be. It will not work. Because your mind is sensitive. It listens. It absorbs. It conforms to the culture it lives in. And if the culture around you does not support your growth, you will sabotage your own evolution just to belong. So take inventory. What are you allowing into your mind every day? Who are you giving front-row access to your vision? What words are being spoken in your atmosphere? Are they reinforcing truth or feeding fear? Are they reminding you of what is possible or pulling you back into old patterns? Are they expanding your faith or reawakening your doubt? This is not about blame. This is about stewardship. You are responsible for the environment of your mind. No one else will protect it if you do not. You cannot keep blaming the world for your distraction if you keep inviting chaos into your space. You cannot keep saying you want change if you refuse to clean the mental room where change must begin. It may mean stepping away, not in anger and alignment. It may mean less time with people who drain you. It may mean less screen time, less scrolling, fewer arguments. It may mean more silence, more reflection, more boundaries, more books, more truth. Because the space you create will either reinforce your future or repeat your past. This is not about perfection. It is about protection. You are building something sacred. You are shifting at the root level. You are no longer available for environments that do not match your elevation. You do not need to explain that. You just need to live it. And those who are meant to walk with you will feel the change and rise with you. Protect your morning. Protect your night. Protect your inputs. Not because you are fragile, because you are focused. Let your space reflect your standards. Let your silence become your sanctuary. Let your boundaries become your declaration that, my mind is fertile ground, and I refuse to let weeds grow here. Because once your environment matches your vision, everything becomes easier. Discipline becomes natural. Focus becomes effortless. Your thoughts feel lighter. Your habits feel aligned. Your dreams feel doable. Not because you changed who you are, but because you finally changed where you were planted. You are not just becoming. You are cultivating. And when you take care of the environment of your mind, it takes care of everything else. Chapter 9. Identity follows imagination. You cannot become what you cannot see. Not because you lack the ability, but because the imagination has not given your soul a destination. This is where most people stay stuck, not in their skill, but in their sight. They believe only in what they have already experienced. They live according to what they have already seen. And so their lives keep repeating, not because they are cursed, but because their minds have no clear picture of anything else. But here is the great shift: identity follows imagination. The person you believe yourself to be begins in the realm of thought. Not random thought, intentional, vivid, emotional imagination. Because when you give your mind a picture, your life begins to move toward it. The clearer the image, the stronger the pull. The more consistent the focus, the more magnetic the energy. That is why those who succeed often seem so confident before they even have the results they saw at first. Most people stop dreaming by the time they are adults. They were told to be realistic, to play it safe, to base their hopes on probability. But what they were never told is that every transformation begins with a picture in the mind of someone bold enough to imagine it. Not based on data, based on desire, on faith, on alignment. And that picture, repeated often enough, becomes a belief. And that belief becomes a self-minus image. And that self-minus image becomes behavior. And that behavior becomes destiny. So if you want to change who you are, you must first change what you see. Imagination is not fantasy. It is formation. It is rehearsal. It is embodiment in advance. It is what athletes do before the game, what musicians do before the concert, what speakers do before they step on stage. They see it. They feel it. They become it in the mind before they become it in the world. And the mind, brilliant and obedient, begins building identity from the blueprints it was given. You have this same power. You can sit still, close your eyes, and picture yourself waking up in alignment, focused, calm, energized. You can see yourself speaking with clarity, moving with purpose, choosing with power. You can feel what it would be like to live without fear, to act without doubt, to trust yourself fully. And as you do, your brain cannot tell the difference between imagined and real. It simply builds the new identity as if it already exists. But most people do the opposite. They imagine failure, rejection, embarrassment. They see themselves trying and falling, speaking and stumbling, risking and losing. And that image, though fictional, becomes a feeling. And that feeling becomes avoidance. And that avoidance becomes their new personality. Not because they lack confidence, but because they rehearse the wrong future. What you rehearse, you repeat. So choose the picture wisely. Make it vivid. Make it emotional. Make it consistent. Do not imagine in vague terms. See the room. Hear the sounds. Feel the pace of your breath. Walk through your ideal day in your mind like it already belongs to you. Not with desperation, with certainty. This is not wishful thinking. This is identity training. And identity training is how you transform your outcomes. You must allow yourself to imagine the next version of your life without sabotaging it with the fear of how. The how will come. The steps will reveal themselves. But not if you keep dismissing the vision as impossible. The moment you see it as possible, even slightly, you give your identity something to follow. So start now. Right now. Close your eyes and see it, the version of you who is not waiting for life to change. The version who walks in peace, who speaks with conviction, who creates with joy. The version who no longer carries the weight of who they used to be. The version who trusts the process because they trust themselves. That version is already within you. Not someday. Now. And imagination is the bridge. Because once you can see it, truly see it, the rest of your life starts moving toward it. Chapter 10. Emotion is the fuel of transformation. You will not change your life through logic alone. Information is not transformation. You can know the right things. You can memorize the steps. You can study all the strategies. But until emotion is engaged deep, embodied emotion, nothing shifts. Because emotion is not weakness. Emotion is fuel. It is the difference between interest and commitment. Between curiosity and decision. Between knowing better and doing better. Your mind may carry the blueprint, but your emotions carry the energy. And energy is what builds a new life. Think about the most powerful decisions you have ever made, the ones that altered your direction, the ones that brought you home to yourself. Did they come from reason? Or did they come from a moment when you felt something so deeply, you could no longer ignore the truth? A breaking point. A revelation. A clarity that hit not just your mind but your soul. That is what emotion does. It moves things. You cannot heal from the neck up. You must feel. You must allow yourself to be moved. You must stop thinking your way around your pain and start feeling your way through it. Because when you feel it, you begin to understand it. When you feel it, you begin to release it. When you feel it, you gain access to the part of you that has been waiting for permission to rise. This is why repetition alone is not enough. You can say, "I am worthy," 100 times, but if you say it without feeling, it stays on the surface. But if you say it and you let the tears come, let your chest soften, let your breath deepen, now it begins to change you. Because now your nervous system is involved. Now your cells are listening. Now your identity is being reshaped from within. Emotion is what teaches your body a new truth. So do not run from it. Do not numb it. Do not pretend to be unaffected in a world that constantly wounds and awakens you. Let it shake you. Let it soften you. Let it open you. Because what opens you also frees you. And freedom is the only ground upon which true transformation can take root. The mistake many make is believing that emotion is dangerous. That it makes you irrational, weak, unstable. But the truth is, suppressed emotion is what makes you dangerous to yourself, to your clarity, to your peace. Suppressed emotion becomes rage, avoidance, addiction, self-sabotage. It never disappears. It just finds quieter, more destructive ways to speak. So feel it. Feel the frustration. Feel the sadness. Feel the longing for more. Not to drown in it, to be honest with it. To say, "This is where I am, and I refuse to keep numbing what is trying to teach me." Emotion is not the enemy. It is the messenger. It is the part of your mind that speaks in feeling instead of thought. And when you stop running from the feeling, you start hearing the message. And that message is always this: you are ready for more. That is what the ache means. The tension. The restlessness. It is not dysfunction, it is invitation. It is your future calling your name through the language of discomfort. And the only way to respond is to listen, to feel, and to act from the heart, not just the head. Because when your heart and your mind agree, when your thoughts and your emotions align, you become unstoppable. Not because you are never afraid, but because the emotion fueling your faith is louder than the fear of the unknown. This is the true path to transformation. Not just learning new things. Feeling them. Living them. Letting them move you so deeply that you never go back to the version of yourself who could hear truth and walk away unchanged. So let yourself be moved. Cry if you need to. Scream if you must. Sit in silence until the truth becomes louder than the noise. And then rise with clarity, with conviction, with the kind of inner fire that no one gave you, and no one can take away. Because transformation begins in the mind, but it is completed in the heart. Chapter 11. Change the thought, change the pattern. Every pattern in your life, the way you love, the way you react, the way you avoid, the way you push, the way you shrink, begins with a thought. Not a loud one. Often, not even a conscious one. Just a quiet, repetitive whisper in the back of your mind: this is who I am. This is how life works. This is what I deserve. And that whisper becomes a rhythm. That rhythm becomes a routine. That routine becomes your life. This is the brutal beauty of the mind. It builds based on repetition, not truth. It does not care if the thought is empowering or damaging. It only cares if the thought is consistent. If you think it enough, it becomes familiar. If it becomes familiar, it becomes comfortable. If it becomes comfortable, it becomes your identity, even if it keeps you in pain. That is how patterns are formed. Not by choice. By agreement. Silent, repeated agreement with old stories, outdated rules, and inherited beliefs. And until you challenge the thought, you will continue to live inside the pattern. You will try to change your behavior. You will push harder, rest less, hustle more. But nothing will shift. Because the root thought, the belief, remains untouched. Behavior follows thought. Identity follows belief. Results follow rhythm. So if you want to change the pattern, go upstream. Ask yourself, what thought am I believing that keeps this cycle alive? Trace it back. Not with judgment, with curiosity. What do I believe about rest? What do I believe about money? What do I believe about love? What do I believe about myself? And when you find a thought, name it. Write it. Stare it in the face. Say, I see you. I see what you have created. And I do not need you anymore. Because naming the thought is how you take away its power. Naming the lie is how you begin telling the truth. You are not lazy. Your word ought to equate your worth with constant productivity. You are not unlovable. You were wounded by people who never learned how to love themselves. You are not broken. You are building, piece by conscious piece, a new foundation. This is not about blame. This is about responsibility. You cannot control where the thought began. But you can control whether it stays. You can choose a new thought. Higher thought. Healing thought. One that says, I am allowed to be different now. One that says, this cycle ends with me. One that says, I am no longer required to suffer in order to be safe. And when you choose a new thought, the old pattern starts to weaken. It will not disappear overnight. It will fight to survive. But every time you respond with a new thought, every time you act from alignment instead of autopilot, you build a new pattern. A new rhythm. A new way of being. That is how healing works. That is how rebuilding works. That is how lives change, not by force, but by awareness. Not by fixing the behavior, but by replanting the root. Because when you change the thought changes you. So here is your call. Identify one pattern you are ready to release. Trace it back to the thought that built it. Then create its opposite, the new truth. The thought that feels like freedom. The thought that feels like future. And speak it daily. Live it daily. Choose it daily. At first, it will feel unfamiliar. But that is how you know it is working. You are shifting. You are rising. You are no longer running on the script that kept you small. Because every new life begins with a new thought followed by the courage to think it again and again until it becomes the pattern that carries you home. Chapter 12. Master the moment, master the mind. All transformation begins in a single moment and then another. And another. Change is not a future event. It is a present decision, repeated consistently, without applause. The mind loves to complicate growth. It says, we need a plan. A breakthrough. A complete overhaul. But the truth is far simpler. Master the moment, and you begin to master your life. Master your attention in this moment, and you begin to master your mind. Because the mind does not live in the past or the future. It lives in the now. That is where your power is. That is where your patterns shift. Not tomorrow. Not next year. No. But most people do not live in the moment. They live in memory. In loops. In anxiety about what might go wrong. In regret about what already did. They rehearse pain. They project fear. And in doing so, they miss the one thing they actually have control over this moment. This breath. this decision, this opportunity to choose differently. You cannot think your way out of patterns. You must act your way out one moment at a time. You must become present enough to catch yourself. Present enough to say, I am about to repeat the old reaction, but this time, I choose something new. Present enough to interrupt the autopilot, pause the emotion, and shift the thought. That is the moment where freedom lies. Not in knowing everything. In choosing differently, just once. This is the true mastery, not perfection, but presence. Not never falling, but always returning. Always noticing when the old script is playing, and writing a new one instead. You do not need to control everything. You just need to own the next choice. The people who transform their lives are not superhuman. They are simply present. They know how to come back. Again and again. To the moment. To the breath. To the thought. To the truth. They do not ask, will this work forever? They ask, will this work now? And then they do it again. This is the power of micro-mastery. The ability to win a single moment. To speak back to the thought that once controlled you. To take a breath before the reaction. To remind yourself of your standard before you settle. These small victories become momentum. And that momentum becomes a mindset. And that mindset becomes a life. The mind wants to spiral. It wants to relive. It wants to react. But you have authority. You can breathe. You can ground. You can choose a new response even when the old one feels automatic. This is the essence of rebuilding. Not forcing yourself to be someone else. Returning to the version of you that already knows how to be whole and giving them permission to lead the moment. So the question is never, am I healed? The question is always, what am I choosing now? Because healing is not a destination. It is a discipline. I returning. I remembering. I re-centering. It happens in this moment or not at all. Master this moment. Do not rush it. Do not resist it. Do not skip it looking for something bigger. This is the moment that matters. Not the story. Not the fear. Not the pressure. Just this choice. Just this breath. And when you master the moment again and again, the moments become days. The days become patterns. The patterns become identity. And the identity becomes freedom. Because the most powerful thing you can ever do is not to master the world, it is to master yourself, one moment at a time. The mindset reset. This is where the story turns inward. Where the pages stop echoing and the mirror begins speaking. Where all the ideas, all the revelations, all the truths you have consumed must now become standards. Not wishes. Not inspiration. But non-negotiable ways of thinking, living, becoming. Because a powerful thought means nothing if it is not carried into a powerful mindset. So pause. Breathe. Ask yourself with honesty, not haste, what do I truly believe about myself? Not when I am reading something empowering. Not when I am motivated. But when I am tired. When I fail. When I am alone. Because that belief is the root. That belief is the rhythm. That belief is the frame through which all of life is filtered. If it does not change, nothing else can. Your mindset is your magnet. It is the blueprint of what you expect and the thermostat of what you allow. If your mindset is rooted in fear, everything feels like a threat. If your mindset is rooted in shame, everything feels like judgment. If your mindset is rooted in scarcity, you hoard your energy, your love, your risk. But when your mindset is rooted in truth and alignment, in enoughness, in clarity, you move with peace, no matter the storm. You become resilient not because everything goes your way, but because you no longer betray your way. This reset is not an emotional rush. It is a conscious return. I return to power. I return to perspective. I return to the truth that you are not what happens to you. You are what you decide to believe about what happens to you. And those beliefs must now be challenged, filtered, and rewritten. So ask again, what thoughts do I need to release? The ones that say I am too late. The ones that say I am not ready. The ones that whisper, who do you think you are? Let them go. With reverence, not resistance. They kept you safe once, but they are no longer needed. They are no longer true. And ask, what truths will I now accept? That I am not stuck, I am becoming. That I am not behind, I am being prepared. That I am not weak, I am wise enough to begin again. That I do not need to know the whole path to take the next step. Make these truths your new thoughts. Make these thoughts your new standards. Speak them when your energy is low. Repeat them when doubt rises. Anchor yourself in them before every decision. Let your inner world be built on solid ground, not shifting emotion. Decide from this moment forward, I think like someone who knows they belong. I choose like someone who respects their future. I speak like someone who knows their words create. I walk like someone who no longer apologizes for their clarity. This is not a mood. This is a mindset. And it must now shape everything: your morning, your momentum, your movement. Let it show up in the way you wake, in the way you work, in the way you rest. Let it influence what you say yes to, what you walk away from, what you protect. Let it be visible, even in silence. Let it be loud, even without words. You are not who you used to be. You are not bound by your history. You are not a product of your patterns. You are the chooser. You are the author. You are the thinker who now thinks from power, not panic. This is your mindset reset. A new standard. A new mental home. A new level of personal truth. From this moment forward, think like the person you are becoming, not the one you had to be in order to survive. And keep thinking like that until that mindset is no longer something you visit, but where you live. The final call. This is not the end. This is the invitation. The turning point where thought becomes action, where inspiration becomes embodiment. Everything you have read, everything that stirred in your chest, everything that rose to the surface as you remembered your power, it all leads here. Not to more thinking. To choosing. To living. To becoming. You have seen the truth. You are the thinker. The decider. The builder. You are not at the mercy of life, you are shaping it, one thought at a time. One belief at a time. One brave declaration, spoken again and again until your nervous system understands we are no longer in survival. We are in creation. You cannot unknow this now. You cannot go back to casual thinking. You cannot pretend that your self-minus talk is harmless. You cannot look at your patterns and call them permanent. You have seen too much. You have learned too much. You have awakened. So now the question echoes, will you return to the old way of thinking, or will you rise into the life your new thoughts are trying to create? You do not need more time. You do not need more proof. You need more truth. You need to remember what has always been waiting beneath the noise: your ability to choose again. To believe again. To become again. Your future does not begin tomorrow. It begins the moment you stop agreeing with the lie that you are not ready. And you are ready. Ready to think like someone who is no longer triggered by delay, because you trust divine timing. Ready to speak like someone who understands the weight of their words, who uses their language as a ladder. Ready to act like someone who does not need permission to show up fully. Ready to walk like someone who knows they are worthy, not someday now. You are not perfect. You are powerful. And powerful people do not wait for conditions to be ideal. They do not wait for support to be unanimous. They do not wait to be fully confident before they begin. They begin and they build belief as they move. Let this be the day you begin. The day you become unavailable for thoughts that poison your potential. The day you refuse to water doubt. The day you say, I am done performing for a version of life that no longer fits. Let this be the day you decide, I will think like someone who is whole. I will move like someone who is healed. I will choose like someone who trusts the process, even when it is quiet, even when it is slow, even when it is lonely. Let this be the moment you become dangerous, not to the world, but to your limitations. Let this be the moment your energy announces, I know who I am now. And I am no longer returning to the version of me that forgot. You do not need to fight for your future. You just need to align with it. Walk in it. Think from it. Speak from it. Let it shape your decisions. Let it raise your standards. Let it be the voice that is louder than fear, longer than doubt, stronger than resistance. Because the life you long for is not waiting on the outside. It is waiting on the inside for the moment your thoughts match your truth. This is that moment. Now rise.